What's up guys, Lifting here. So as you may know, I'm currently doing an experiment where I test out the different endgame farming methods to see which one is most profitable based on the time and estimated currency earned and invested. Last week I released a video for 50 Uber Lab runs and the estimated profit I gained from doing that. In this video this week I will share my estimated profit for having completed 50 Atziri runs. So before I share my results, let me explain my method as to how I went about this. There are, in my opinion, 3 ways you can go about an Atziri run. The first method is to simply rush to the end and kill her for her exclusive unique items and fragments. The second one is to clear the entire map to get maximum value from random monster drops and of course the Atziri exclusives themselves. The third way, the way I did this, is to simply kill what's on your path while rushing to Atziri, giving you a good balance of experience gains, depending on your character's level of course, random drops, and then of course Atziri drops again. And I tried all 3 methods, and by clearing everything in the map, it typically took around 9 to 10 minutes to complete. If you simply rush to Atziri, you can complete the map in as little as 3 to 4 minutes, maybe even a little faster sometimes. But the way I did this, my runs using the method of killing stuff on my way but not clearing everything, took an average of 6 minutes per run, resulting in this experiment using this method taking 5 hours to complete for 50 Atziri runs. And I should also mention that Atziri benefits from having high item rarity and item quantity stats. My character, however, only had 34% increased item rarity. Now, as for the cost of doing 50 Atziri runs. To enter the Atziri map you need 1 sacrifice of dawn, dusk, noon and midnight. Dusk, dawn and noon costs on average 1 chaos each, and midnights typically go for 4 chaos each. This means that the total cost of doing 50 Atziri runs was 350 chaos orbs spent on these fragments. Now let's talk about my estimated profit from doing these 50 runs. And you should know that all drops have been priced according to current market prices on PoE trade in the Essence Softcore League. Now when converted to chaos, all the currency drops from Atziri amounts to what's equivalent to 98 chaos orbs in pure currency. From divination card drops and random skill gems, my estimated profit are 14 chaos orbs, mostly due to the Last Hope divination card that luckily dropped and that sells for 10 chaos orbs by itself. As for map drops, and this surprised me a bit, there was a huge amount of maps dropping in between tier 1 and 5. And obviously these are low level maps and doesn't sell for much each, but the sheer amount of these still adds up, and on average these maps has the potential to sell for 24 chaos orbs. Now in regards to the Atziri unique items, there was an abundance of the flasks, a fairly equal amount of belts and boots, and only a few scepters. The total estimated amount of selling these are 70 chaos orbs, with the scepters being the most profitable ones, together with a few perfectly rolled Atziri flasks. Neither the belt nor the boots weren't worth much, still they would sell for a chaos or a fusing or something like that. Besides the Atziri uniques, I also found a ton of rare items in there. Unfortunately, only 2 of these rares were actually worth selling. The total estimated profit are 8 chaos orbs. Fortunately, I did find a Kiara's Determination and an Agnarat West Staff. These together sold for 78 chaos orbs. And now finally, in terms of estimated value dropped from Uber Atziri fragments, the total amount is 329 chaos orbs, with the Hope and Ignorance fragments being the most valuable of the 4. So when putting this all together and subtracting the cost of fragments to enter the area, the total estimated profit amounts to 269 chaos orbs. On that note, I don't think it's entirely realistic for all the Atziri flasks, belts, boots and maps to sell, even when priced according to competitive market prices. These items are already very cheap by itself, and most people are only interested in buying the almost perfectly rolled ones. So just because the items actually hold that value on the market, it doesn't mean that they will necessarily sell, because there's so many of them. The items I feel confident in selling is the Uber fragments, the Kiara's Determination and the Agnorot West Staff, not to mention the Last Hope Divination card. The fragments itself drop fairly consistently, but the uniques are of course just random, meaning it isn't something one can expect when farming Atziri. So if we try to eliminate a bit of the RNG and take out some of the Atziri uniques that probably won't sell, also including the maps and the divination card, the estimated total profit for doing these Atziri runs are, instead of 269 Chaos Orbs, only 151 Chaos Orbs. Taking into consideration the amount of time spent on each run, this amounts to something like 30 Chaos Orbs per hour, granting that everything else sells for the price that it is currently listed for. So overall, Atziri farming compared to the time invested is, in my opinion, not really worth it. The only really reliable profit is the Uber Atziri fragments, a few perfectly rolled Atziri items, and of course the random currency dropping in the map. So compared to something like Uberlab, where the estimated profit was something like 914 Chaos Orbs, I think the meager 150 Chaos Orbs from Atziri really isn't that impressive. That said, the Uber runs took longer, but the income from the Uberlab is also much more likely to actually sell, and by just doing high-level regular maps and being good at pricing and selling items, you would probably make more than farming Atziri per hour. To be fair, it's probably worth mentioning that Atziri farming during the beginning of a league has the potential to be much more profitable. Midways into the league, where we are at now, the market starts to get flooded with items, and that is really what drives down the prices so much and makes it harder to sell. Also in hardcore, due to the higher risk of ripping your character and the market being less saturated, the items are typically worth more, which makes Atziri farming in that league more attractive or viable if the goal is profit. Finally, before we end, keep in mind that 50 Atziri runs isn't a very large data sample, but hopefully this at least works as an indication as to what you can expect. I also want to do 50 Uber Atziri runs and share my findings with you. Before I do that, I need to save up and buy all the fragments. So it may take a while before you should expect that video out. If it takes too long, I might simply do it next league to ensure a more vibrant and alive marketplace. But we'll see. That's it for now. Subscribe if you're interested in my future findings. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?